شغلة كمان هلا عم تقلي ماريا كانوا مسويين لسنة لأنه نقط دم على الشرشف، دخلي كيف بنشيل الدم؟ يعني دمها يعلم لأنه مش بالغسيل ما هيك صابون بلدي. وكمان في عندها شغلة تانية عم ببين على هول الشراشف إلينهم يعني فرشتها هيك مثل اشياء مدبغة يعني بني. هلا حسب جاني انه هيدا بنادول، بس انا طول عمري بستعمل بنادول ما بدبر ابدا، وحتى دواها هيدا تبع الفيتامين ما بدبر، وانا هو بجديد يعني مبينين ما كان عم بستعملها لا فيتامين ولا بنادول. حتى رجعت لاحظت على الكوفرلي مطرح ما بتقعد يعني مش تبع ادريانا تاني ميل، رجعت عم بقلي بلكي منها لهي جاني انه عم تقعد دم او شي، ما بعرف مش قادرة اعرف شو هن. وهوديك يعني بعد الكوفرلي ما قصرت، بس هالشراشف عم ترسم مش عم بيروحوا، وشو جابها لهي على الشراشف يعني بدي اعرف من شو ستقرا على الانترنت فيقولوا انه هيدا داء مدري شو بياكل من دم الانسان واخبار يعني فين عارف. ما بعرف المهم مش عم بعرف من شو هون هيك عدة مطارح على اول الفرشة يعني مطرح العودة كانه، بس انه مين عم بنقط هونيك لا بنادول ولا شي بعلم عندي ما بعتقد هي عم تقلي بنادول. طيب وبالنسبة لهول اللي منقطين على فرشة على من قالنا دم شو بعمل له طيب المفروض قبل ما تغسلهم هاي بتجيني؟ اصلا هيني ما بعرف شو صاير لها كمان امبارح قعدت تقلي وانا ساك وجسمي كله ومش عم صح، اخذت الدواء تبع البكتيريا هيدي الانفكسيون اليناتي وما فايدة طبعا عم تقول عم بفيدها ما شو بصيبها شو بعرف. واصلا هيدي كمان عم تقلي ساخنة كل جسمها موجعها ايدنج اللي شو من جوا مضايقة وانه ما في عندها مناعة عم تشتغل تخبرني انه مش عم بفيدها هذا، وبالاول كانت عم بتقول اصلا هيدي جاني شو مدري شو صايبها وساخنة وجسمها كله من قلبه مدري شو يمكن وما عندها مناعة عم تخبرني مع انه كان عم بفيدها الدواء، لا مش عم بفيدها بالاول كانت عم تفوتني ما بعرف شو صايبها انه هذا الانفكسيون اليوناري اللي عم تفوتني ما بعرف. هلا قلت لها خلي بنادول امبارح كل يوم عملي حركات عرفتوا. هاي كيفك صبا ليكي ايه كنت عم تسألني نادين 1570 طلع علينا اثنيناتنا مع الانشورنس ايه عاملين انشورنس كل شي بعتلها انا كل شي وفي يعني انفويسز لإلنا. كيفك صبا ليكي ايه كنت عم تسألني نادين 1570 طلع علينا اثنيناتنا مع الانشورنس ايه عاملين انشورنس كل شي بعتلها انا كل شي وفي يعني انفويسز لإلنا. حطيت لها انا البنك ستيتمنت انه اخذوا عليه $10 بدي اخذوا منك شي بالبنك في له فاتوره، قلت لها اذا بده يدفع ما بده يدفع ما بيأثر مش حرزانه. قلت لها انا البنك ستيتمنت انه اخذوا عليه $10 بدي اخذوا منك شي بالبنك في له فاتوره، قلت لها اذا بده يدفع ما بده يدفع ما بيأثر مش حرزانه. اوكي اذا في شي تاني دفعتيه تذكري وقولي لي بنقدم له اياه. في شي تاني دفعتيه تذكري وقولي لي بنقدم له اياه.
ايه عم بسمع.
can watch it on YouTube.
من يجعل الناس برابير.
What makes people civilized is people. That is an old saying by Bustros al-Bustani. The role of women in the family and the society is an ethical, economic, and social necessity. When women are educated, they do not only self-achieve, but they also help others be self-fulfilled. When women raise and bring up their children, they prepare others to become leaders. When women join decent work, she produces for her family, herself, and the economy. If such conditions are overlooked, it is wrong to think that the impact affects only women. It rather affects all aspects of life. If the land is overlooked, the drought affects the owners and the future generations. According to the vision of Saudi Arabia for 2030, women has a large part to achieve, and this is an opportunity for us to get into the wide horizons open for the Saudi women in terms of work, empowerment, and welfare. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you all at the UN House in Beirut. We give the floor first to the person who says little and makes a lot of achievements in the economy, business, and women's rights. And at the top, a struggle that succeeded with a decree that allows Kuwaiti women to vote and to run as candidates in the parliamentary elections. And she had won together with 3 other candidates in the first time in the diplomacy life in Kuwait as a female MP. Wherever she is, she's active, always calling for innovation, production, and change. I call upon Mrs. Rola Dashti, the executive secretary of ASQA. The floor is yours.
يسعد صباحكم جميعا.
Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, Raya Al-Hassan, Minister of Interior and Municipalities in the Lebanese Republic. Excellency, Violette Khairallah Safadi, Minister of State for Economic Empowerment of Women and Youth in the Lebanese Republic. Excellency Walid Al-Bukhari, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to Lebanon. Excellency Amal Yahya Al-Ma'louli, Member of the Women Affairs Council in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests.
I'm pleased to welcome you all at your house, the UN house in Beirut. We meet today in order to discuss about women, to discuss women and the vision of Saudi Arabia for 2030, a vision that was generated by international circumstances and regional conditions that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia works hard to achieve and contribute. Saudi Arabia progresses at the economic, social, and political fronts. And some Arab countries have tried to match their national strategies with the Plan 2030 and have been able to get closer to the Sustainable Development Goals, especially when it comes to gender equality in the education and social care as well as social protection. However, the achieved progress varies in our region, unfortunately. Some Arab countries, several Arab countries, still witness a wide gap between women and men at the level of political participation, decision-making, and the labor market. This gap threatens the sustainable development horizons and the goal to build strong societies and economies that do not leave anyone behind. Engaging women in decision making and in the execution is not a luxury, but it's a need to achieve the objectives and all of the goals of the Sustainable Development Goals, and not only goal number 5 about gender equality. That truth is supported by figures. Expectation and estimations show that the participation of women with all of its potential and capacities would increase the international GDP by 2025 with an increase of 26% up to 26%, i.e. 28 trillion US dollars if we empower women. This reality is seized by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and that had been translated into structural, legislative, and social reforms, as well as cultural and institutional reforms that keep pace with the Agenda 2030 and the vision of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that, despite the challenges, is very courageous. This is how women are able to make steps forward through the increase of its participation up to 30% in the labor market. Like you, I look forward to the presentation by Mrs. Amal Yahya Al-Muallili about the vision of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for 2030 and its impact on the development of the role of Saudi women in the social and economic transformation together with men. I confirm that ESQA is keen on supporting the efforts of Saudi Arabia through providing advisory information, technical cooperation, statistics, and data in order to monitor the progress made towards the SDGs and Vision 2030 as well as the Agenda 2030. At the end, I'd like to thank you for your attendance, and I wish you all a fruitful day that would contribute to enhancing the role of women in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and in our Arab region. Thank you for your attendance.
أشكر الدكتورة.
I'd like to thank Dr. Drula Dashti for her speech. We open the site of the Lebanese Minister of State for Economic Empowerment of Women and Youth, and we see a time alarm that accounts for weeks, days, hours, minutes, and seconds. It is the campaign Let's Speak About Law that was launched by Mrs. Safadi, and that determined the 17th of March 2020 as a legislative meeting to discuss all of the draft laws about women. It's a campaign that we hope would be a new achievement for Mrs. Safadi. We give her the floor to tell us more. The floor is yours, ma'am.
صباح الخير.
Good morning, everyone. Excellencies, Excellency Ambassador of Saudi Arabia, deputies, friends, honorable guests. I know that we have also guests from Saudi Arabia. You're all most welcome in Lebanon. The face of my mother is the face of my nation. That is the big outcry by Gibran, Khalil Gibran, around a century ago, when there was a fight between those who were calling for the liberation of Eastern women and those who wanted women to remain at the trap of ignorance in the name of obsolete traditions, customs, and the religious teachings, while religion is innocent. Undoubtedly, the cause of women in the Arab region had always been at the top priority, constituting a big challenge because women account for half of the society, not only from a qualitative and quantitative perspective, but in terms of the equal opportunity and equal role together with men, which constructively affects our society in the different domains and fields. Therefore, this encounter is highly important because it falls under the vision of Saudi Arabia 2030 that is built on three pillars: a vital society, a prosperous economy, and an ambitious nation. Since in the beginning I was asked to speak about the initiative of the legislative women session in March 2030, and I thank the Speaker of the House, Nabih Berri, and the Prime Minister, Prime Minister Hariri, Saad Hariri, for embracing this initiative. And now the ball is at the doors of the parliament. Everyone is active. All of the MPs are excited, and the draft laws are examined. And we really hope that the future of the Lebanese women and the problems that Lebanese women suffer from, and the violence that women were subject to physically, morally, and even economically, I hope that we will be able to overcome that, and we have high hopes. Now, back to the vision of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for women. It is built on the present to pay for a prosperous and ambitious future. It was launched in April of 2016 by the custodian of the two holy mosques. And he said that my first objective is for my country to be a successful model, a prosperous model at all levels, and I will work together with you on achieving that. And Mohammed bin Salman was the sponsor of this vision, because it is a big dream for an ambitious nation, and it is made together by the Economic and Social Council that he presides. And he said that it's a vision that depicts our ambitions and dreams, and it's built on the strengths and the unique capacities of our nation. It designs our conception of a future that aims at a vital society where all citizens, both men and women, can achieve their dreams, ambitions, and expectations in a prosperous national economy. Ladies and gentlemen, the vision of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia 2030, with its high importance, would never be finalized without granting women the needed importance. It is one of the essential issues that the drafters have known. So women was at the core heart of the vision. And its effective presence in the public sphere, its empowerment at the level of the economic participation is clear. That will never happen unless we remove all of the obstacles and barriers to such an achievement. Let me speak about the rule of making sayings happen. A lot of achievements have been made since the launch of the vision. The first conference that was organized in Washington, D.C., and was the highlight of the female achievements. 30 women have joined the Shura Council. Princess Amira bin Mandar was designated as an ambassador to Washington, and that was for the first time in the history of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She's the first Saudi woman to achieve such a high office. Hind bin Khalid Al-Zahid was also designated as an undersecretary for the Ministry for the Empowerment of Women. Women deputy, many female deputies, and Saudi was the first to engage in the formula in the UK in April 2019. We've mentioned several female unprecedented achievements, and there are also governmental decisions that were consecutive, for example, but not limited to that, not asking for permission when services are provided to women, issuing driving licenses to both men and women, and implementing sports programs in schools that engage female students, as well as the sexual harassment system, and I hope it will happen also in Lebanon very soon. Regarding women, the Saudi vision takes into consideration the situation of women in Saudi Arabia, and that's the same in other Arab countries. Ahmad Al-Shawki said, we are all the same and the same concerns. So as soon as I took office in the Ministry of State for Economic Empowerment of Women and Youth, and through the strategic plan, I do my best in order to improve the situation of the Lebanese women and the youth in general, based on a deep conviction that it is useless to go for an integrated and consistent society unless women are able to find their natural roles and positions where they can shake hands and work together to achieve such an objective. That is how the women cause is the entry point that cannot be replaced in order to get to a sound society and a nation that is able to join the new developments instead of lagging behind. I would like to express my deep thanks and gratitude for the embassy represented by the Ambassador Walid Al-Bukhari, and I highly appreciate this encounter called upon by the embassy and ESCWA, and the organizers have made sure to have an Arab representative encounter at the level of ambassadors and the UN organizations as well as the civil society organizations. Thank you. I'd like to thank Her Excellency Violetta Safadi for her speech. He believes in the joint Arab action and a pioneer role for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the development and the enhancement of the society with all of its elements, and at the top women. He was known for working on the sustainable diplomacy built on human values and constants. 3 years after Vision 2030, Saudi women take senior executive and diplomatic as well as judiciary and economic positions. Those who observe the achievements can only expect more and more. In this context, I am pleased to call upon the ambassador of the custodian of the two holy mosques, Mr. Walid Al-Bukhari. The floor is yours. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Excellency, Under Secretary of the Secretary General, Executive Secretary of ESQA, Minister of State, Minister of Interior and Municipalities, Minister of State for Economic Empowerment of Women and Youth, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, may the peace and blessings of God be upon you. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia aims at achieving unstoppable ambitions. The vision and the programs of Saudi Arabia and translate the expectations of empowerment and ensuring the achievement of the dreams of the future generations. Women in my country were able to make honorable historic strides forward that keep pace with the changes of the modern history, thanks to God Almighty and thanks to the leadership of my country at the top, the custodian of the two holy mosques and King Abdulaziz. Since the establishment of Saudi Arabia that had provided care to all what can push forward development based on equality and equal opportunities, starting with providing the right to education and moving to the senior positions. Now women in Saudi Arabia have become at the front line, and they're able to really enforce their roles as citizens that are partners in the construction of the nation despite the challenges and the obstacles. Hence, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia confirms that it will keep going forward to support women and to ensure the full participation of women in the development and leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, therefore, benefiting from the capacities and potential of women in order to get engaged in an effective manner in launching the change policy that is witnessed in Saudi Arabia is considered one of the most important objectives of the vision of Saudi Arabia 2030. The women empowerment have even become a main slogan in this vision. In 2016, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia had adopted the Vision 2030 and the Change Program 2020 that had put the Saudi women empowerment at the top as a top priority. The plan of the vision aims at increasing the economic participation from 22 to 30% by women. Ladies and gentlemen, the vision of Saudi Arabia 2030 had reflected a long-term vision for Saudi women and its leadership role in the society. It had granted her with development roles in order to achieve wide success stories at the regional and international levels. Now we see that Saudi women are real partners in the development and the leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, we all look forward towards supporting Saudi women in particular and Arab women in general in order to fulfill their roles in pushing forward sustainable development and helping with unleashing the potential of women achieving regional and international successes. Thank you for your attendance. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. Thank you. I'd like as well to congratulate Mrs. Aman Ma'alem for being granted a senior position as a supervisor of the UN and international organizations. Thank you for your attendance. I would like to thank Walid al-Bukhari, His Excellency the Ambassador. Now we give the floor to Mrs. Amal Yahya al-Muallimi, She has more than 25 years of experience in the education and social development and in disseminating the culture of dialogue and human rights. She is member of the Human Rights Council and the Family Affairs Council in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and a member of the Women Committee in the Islamic Cooperation Organization. She provides a lot of lectures in the field of human rights, coexistence, moderation, and justice. As mentioned, she was newly designated as supervisor at the Human Rights Council in Saudi Arabia. Congratulations. The floor is yours. Good morning, everyone. A morning of beauty and brotherhood in the Lebanon of dignity. This is a song that made us cry in the 70s out of passion. I would like to thank you all. I thank all of you who made it here to support the actions of the Saudi women and her empowerment that would positively affect the entire region. We all agree that Saudi Arabia has a social, historic, and spiritual dimensions that affect several regions at the Arab and Islamic countries. What happens in Saudi Arabia would positively affect the other Arab and Islamic countries. Your Excellency, Minister Kolla, thank you for speaking about the vision with a passionate heart. You have really depicted what I wanted to start with, so I will skip some slides of the presentation and we get immediately into the heart of the topic. I'll present a realistic situation of what we go through in Saudi Arabia. The pillars: vital society, prosperous economy, and ambitious nation. These pillars didn't overlook the historic, geographic, and spiritual dimensions of Saudi Arabia. That is why I confirm that in our vision of 2030, we read that what happens in the vision, the achievements and the developments would affect the neighboring countries at the Arab and Islamic levels. Women empowerment in the Vision 2030, as mentioned by the King. Women play a crucial role in achieving this vision. The Vision 2030 of Saudi Arabia had depicted a roadmap to achieve ambitious objectives and established key performance indicators and supportive programs in order to boost the efforts of the ministries and organizations. Supervisory authorities were also established for measurement and supervision purposes, and I think that is one of the guarantees for the success of this ambitious vision. In order to achieve the objectives of Vision 2030 that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is committed to, and that included consistency and conformity between such objectives and the SDGs launched by the UN, and that called upon all member countries to build regional plans in order to achieve the 17 SDGs. These objectives, in order to be met, needed a set of legislations, policies, and reforms at all levels: social, economic, cultural, legal, health, and other life-related levels. These courageous reforms have affected the lives of each citizen and resident in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Achieving the Vision 2030 is based on the engagement of all of the society members, the governmental, non-governmental, charitable organizations as well, in order to make the objectives happen. Regarding Saudi women that constitute 49.6% of the inhabitants, with more than 23 million inhabitants and 10 million residents, and in order to allow women to achieve achieve the main objectives of Vision 2030, or one of the major objectives on women, increasing the participation of women in the labor market from 11 to 25% by 2030 and 30% by 2030 after 25% in 2020. So this required several procedures and actions that would enable women to effectively get engaged to achieve this objective. This empowerment through the modification of legislations. Let's speak now about the legal perspective. In order for a law, or when we issue a legislation or a law, there must be a social movement, a social call and advocacy for such a law or a legislation to see the light. And there must be sanctions for those who are not committed to and do not comply with the enforcement of the law. Otherwise, the law would remain in the drawers. What we've seen is strict and fast sanctions for those who violate the harassment, the harm, the female driving reforms. We've seen some individual actions, and we've seen very tough and hard sanctioning in order to protect this regime against any violations in the society. So those are main components in legislation making. Number two, the society must get engaged in the legislation drafting, and that was achieved through the national meetings organized in Saudi Arabia since the establishment of King Abdulaziz for National Dialogue in 2005. There were annual recommendations presented to the Shura Council and the government by hand to King Abdullah, late King Abdullah, and currently King Salman. And the demands, claims of the citizens, the visions and ambitions of the citizens go directly to the person in charge, to the leader in charge. And also in the drafting of Vision 2030, there was a workshop that was organized for the main graduates of the Saudi universities for an entire month in one of the hotels in Riyadh. It was they were there working day and night to draft their initiatives, visions, and what they wish to see in their countries. Then such recommendations by the national meetings and workshops were moved to foreign experience centers that have turned it into a vision with initiatives and key performance indicators and a timetable that ensures compliance. All of that, the social engagement is based on a vision of a nation. It's not an individual vision. It is our vision under the sponsorship and patronage of King Mohammed bin Salman. These legislations and new modifications needed also an awareness campaign so that people become familiar with the new reforms and all of the implications, the positive benefits of such legislations and regimes. And what I'm trying to do now is to introduce the vision in the international forums to let people know about what happens in Saudi Arabia, so that we present our slight experience, and in order to benefit from the experiences of other countries who are much more ahead of us. Saudi Arabia is committed to policies to develop services provided to the Saudi citizen to facilitate the procedures and develop the performance, governmental performance, and the quality of the services provided to citizens and residents in terms of health, accommodation, and education, as well as the other life needs. Women had been covered by a set of reforms that helped remove the barriers and helped women achieve their roles as an active member of the society. For example, the freedom of movement and accommodation, as well as travel. Now a new new network of public transportation. Metro is to be introduced, and millions of investments are made in the private and public transportation companies, as well as schools for driving teachings in all of the governorates after the lift of the driving ban, which had greatly affected the general situation in the country. We also see in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia continuous development of the educational curricula and the increase of the number of universities and the diversity of the disciplines. The program of the custodian of the two holy mosques have also provided specialized scientific opportunities and an increase of the seats. This program started in 2005, and 10 years after, in 19 countries, we have around 300,000 Saudi students with their escorts and family members who are allowed automatically to join the program, and they get their accommodation and education fees. The number is 10,000 students abroad, and now we are in the third stage, and this is called your job, and we have 10,333 students who are sent abroad in disciplines with guaranteed jobs that are waiting for them after they get their scientific diplomas. I focused on the education because, in my opinion, one of the main human rights is education, and it's the key to real development. And here the number of young females and their results, as well as the quality of the disciplines, exceeded that of men, and a lot of them have been into higher education. I also speak about the health empowerment that covered cities and towns, and that have enabled also online work in order to help patients get into health services as soon as possible. Here, Dr. Khalwa Al-Kuraya, who is a researcher in cancer diseases, and she is one of the main women leaders in Saudi Arabia. She was designated as a researcher in Harvard University. And Dr. Samar Sagaf, she is called in Saudi Arabia the mother of the expats, because she was living in Washington. She first receives the students who study abroad and prepares them for their new life in the U.S. She is their mother, and now she is a member of George Washington's educational faculty. We've been to the States to receive science, and we're back to it in order to export science. Thank you. The development of the cultural and entertaining and sports activities allowed also the break of the stereotypes and enabled a pattern of life that is rather moderate, away from radicalism, and achieved cultural diversity and educational exchange that increased the belonging and affiliation, and allowed Saudis for more tolerance, respect of pluralism, and acceptance of the different. Regarding human rights and women's rights in particular, there are several legislations that protect the rights of citizens and residents, and that have been developed and improved in order to serve human beings first and achieve also harmony between the local standards and the international standards that Saudi Arabia is committed to through the ratified convention that it joined. Since Saudi Arabia joined the CEDAW convention in 2000, a lot of reforms, gradual reforms, were introduced, and since the launch of the Vision 2030, several positive, tremendous changes have been achieved for more empowerment and more rights to women. For example, Order 3322 And here I hold it on my neck because it is a symbol of the freeing women towards wider horizons. In 2017, the Royal Order 333222 was issued that criminalized and prevented the demand of a permission in order to provide services to women. That was the key for change. The law against sexual harassment. The talk started in 2003 in the third national meeting on women and her affairs, and that is when the demand was launched about for such a law, and it was finally issued in 2018. What was achieved also in the personal status laws and the endowment funds that allowed women not to have to be in front of the court in order to get an alimony or an endowment. And the alimony fund would pay the alimony, and that is when the neglecting husband becomes an adversary with the government, and it's not the wife who's the adversary. The custody and guardianship system also allowed women to be a custodian and a guardian for the children automatically, and the objector shall go to the court in order to prove his attitude. However, the principle is to grant women the custody automatically when there is separation. The protection against harm and the equal pay, as well as the juveniles and minors laws. Those are the most modern and that match international standards. And I confirm that regarding the minors and juveniles laws, we even go beyond what we see in the advanced countries. The protection against harm law guarantees 2 open lines 24 hours in order to call at any moment, and it guarantees also a call opportunity for the children in order to get support and assistance. There are shelters and rehabilitation houses for the women subject to violence in order to be able to live in safety in a separate house with her children. The equal pay law criminalizes the enterprise or the business that doesn't ensure equal pay between female and male employees. This was accompanied by several measures in the courts in order to raise awareness as to the rights. There are consultative and advisory officers with attorneys that provide advice and support, and that defend also the ladies who resort to them. Now also professions allowed for women are wider. It is not, there is no anymore a profession that is not open for women, including the state security, economy, entrepreneurship, tourism, entertainment, and here you can see the first pilot lady, and now you see this picture in the airports. You see a lot of female security officers on the counters, on the inspection also counters, the check-in counters, and to the far right here you see the first license for a female attorney to practice the profession. Our future vision after the royal order was issued for Rima Ben Bender to become an ambassador, and before that Sarah Sahimi at the top of the pyramid in managing the Tadawul company and appointing other females in the private and public sector. I can say that our ambition has the sky as the limit. And here I am, I present myself to you. And here I am today. I present myself to you. I am Amal Yahya al-Muallimi, a Saudi citizen with full capacity. I'm overwhelmed because you are happy and you share my positive emotions. Without your support, we wouldn't have been able to get here. We need more support. We need you to support us to present this positive image and to highlight the real image of my nation, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, across the globe. And that is what we know is facing a non-fair media coverage that hides a lot of positivities that must appear. Your support and your stance is our way to present such a glorious image. Thank you very much. Thank you.
ألف شكر للسيدة أمال.
Thank you, Mrs. Amal, for this interesting presentation that was welcomed by the audience and through which we got to know about the content of Vision 2030 and the impact on the situation of women. Now I open the floor for discussion. Mrs. Amal is ready to answer the questions. Go ahead. Microphone, please. Microphone. I'm very proud of the achievements that were done in a high speed in Lebanon since the independence. Since 1953, we struggled for women's rights in all fields. However, our demands do not are not in harmony with the strategy of the state. We've got 4 ministers recently only, and we would be happy to have even 1 minister to support us. Her Excellency Mrs. Naila, I would like to also pay tribute to your efforts, especially in personal status fields. We would like to learn from your experience. We work on it, but unfortunately in Lebanon, we have 15 different personal status laws depending on the religious communities. And all of that works against women and children. We work as a civil society, but we hope that we would work together with the parliament, especially also the ministers. They are important ladies and we value their work, and we hope that we'll be able to make a difference. I have one question. The child automatically stays with the mom? Yes, unless the husband can prove otherwise. Up till what age? 16 or 18 years. And it's the same for boys and girls. In Saudi Arabia, we've adopted the child age till 18 years in Saudi Arabia. And I would like to tell some ministers and deputies that we are having a campaign for the age, marriage age to be 18 years. It's been 2 years that we have calls and demonstrations, and so far the draft law is not endorsed. Even regarding the early marriage, we are about to finalize the law so that no one below 18 is allowed to get married, whether a boy or a girl. And if it is starting 16 years, we need the permission of the mother, the girl, and a medical record that shows that she's able to get married, and the authorization of a judge. So it is not anymore left unanswered. I am the deputy of the president of the federation that Saudi Arabia is not part of, and I hope that you, Saudi Arabia, would join our federation. Yes, it will be our honor. Thank you. Good morning, Jamal, former president of the Women Lebanese Council. Wasn't only happy, but also I was even affected and influenced by the quick change and the methodology that you adopted. I would like to congratulate you, and I am now the vice president of the Women International Council, and I promise you that I will prepare a report about your achievements and send it to all women around the globe, and I hope that all women, especially the Lebanese, would achieve such a level. Thank you. Dr. Hassan Aboud. Today we heard of a brilliant image. Congratulations. You say you are in full capacity. Yes, I mean that I am in charge of myself, in charge of my children. I am able to get their birth certificates, travel certificates, and I can move anywhere I want with full freedom. Quick comment. You said you need our support to present a brilliant image of Saudi Arabia, and I know that highlighting the struggles of the Saudi women is also important. What you gained is thanks to a generation of female advocates. So this comes first in order to present a good image. Yes, and here I would like to highlight one point. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we've had a different model. Usually women or the civil society asks for the change, and they are faced with the opposition by the political leadership. What happens in Saudi Arabia is the opposite. The political leadership starts the change and creates this change. And then it aims at moving the society forward, and it started since the inception of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and since the start of the education of girls, and since the start of the advancement of the state and the use of the new technology. It used to always start with the leadership and the state, and then the society is made capable of benefiting from that. Here you are in the UN, and the development is top down and bottom up. Yes, but I am telling you, we are in a unique case. We have top down development. We have a big geographic area, big distances. We have a big number of inhabitants where literacy used to be high. Now the literacy rate is 4.5%, and at the time we needed a rational and good leadership that starts the change and attracts the society to such a change. So I think that we are a unique case in this. We have a unique case. Of course, there are demands and there are activities, but all of that used to happen through official tribunals that are allowed for participation, such as the National Dialogue, which is also one of the unique experiences that we're proud of in Saudi Arabia. Thank you. Mrs. Amal, my turn. Yes, go ahead, please. I will introduce myself. I am Dr. Salwa Khalil Amin, head of Diwan Ahl al-Kalam. In Lebanon, we first highlighted the success of the Saudi women, and on the 5th of March, we had His Excellency the Ambassador in our event. Honestly, I wasn't surprised with what you said because I know and I read history very well, and I know that the land of Saudi Arabia is the land of the inspiration, where the first verse that came to man is about reading, i.e., learn. The learning and the science is the light. And you said that you start top down, and I consider that this should happen in all Arab countries, because if the governor or the official doesn't deal with the demands, i.e. the laws, and the legislations would remain ink on paper. And then the executive secretary of ESQA said that teaching women is not a luxury, but it is women empowerment is not a luxury, but it's an acquired right. Now we have a wise leadership in the Saudi Arabia and a young leadership. This young leadership realized that women has an effective role, and we read in the Holy Quran, we made you men and women, and it didn't only highlight the role of men. So from a spiritual perspective, this is guaranteed, but I have a demand. In Egypt, on the first week of November or December, we will meet, and of course I communicate with Saudi Arabia, and I want Saudi women to be on board. But how can I know more? I would be able to get more names about the prominent Saudi ladies, because we also have an encounter in Amman. We have the Observatory of Women that brings together all statistics, figures, and legislations on women. And this observatory is under King Saud University, the Ministry of Labor and Social Empowerment. They have a website. I think through communicating with them directly, you get first-hand information. It is the Women Observatory. Good morning, everyone. Big thanks to ESQA, the Embassy of Saudi Arabia as well, which allowed us to come here and listen to the great innovations. I'm Asma Dirani, I'm president of several organizations, and I'm activist since the 80s in the social and women-related actions. We congratulate you. Congratulations to you and the leadership for supporting women. Here in Lebanon, women have fought in order to get their rights and to achieve the change in the laws, which took too much time in all different fields. We are happy that the state is supporting you, and that is a normal course of action. For a society to be successful, the state must take care of its own people. Unfortunately, we didn't get into this stage, the stage that you're speaking about, but we are happy and pleased to hear about any development in any Arab country where women achieve all such great things. I'd like to tell you, be aware of something. The women action started in 1952. And it was something that we're proud of, while it wasn't that great everywhere, but it started regressing when women started fighting each other. Be careful, because this is very dangerous, and if this happens, then you go back to point zero. Thank you, and may Saudi Arabia remains powerful for everyone. Good morning. Amina Sikkar, head of the Protection of Juveniles Organization and representative of the Beirut People Committee. I am pleased to be here because I was raised in Saudi Arabia. I was born there, and I'm happy to hear of such achievements. My question is currently because I care about juveniles. You spoke in your presentation and you said that Saudi Arabia also had achievements regarding juveniles. Can you give us a short overview about it, because I am very interested in that? Yes, regarding the juveniles law. First, the juvenile is juvenile till 18 years of age. It's not possible to sanction it, whatever is the crime, with more than 10 years of imprisonment as a maximum, provided that he is not in the public prisons, but in a rehabilitation center. So he is in a treatment, in the rehabilitation phase rather than a sanctioning phase. And that is something that we've always wished. And even if he may commits a crime below 18, when he goes beyond 18, the crime or the sanction applies to him as a juvenile, because when the crime was committed, he was a juvenile. Thank you. Luna Al-Berberi, president of the Women Organization and advisor of the Lions governor for 5 years. We hear of initiatives to empower Saudi women according to the Vision 2030, and we are pleased, but do traditions and the patriarchal society in Saudi Arabia allow the implementation of such an initiative and allow women to have access to decision-making positions in all domains within no less than 10 years? In order for it to succeed, we need 3 main factors to come together. There must be a political will for change. We need to have equipped women who are able to fulfill their role, and we need to have social awareness as to the importance of this role. This had taken a lot of years to achieve such an awareness. In the last 2 years, the Saudi society proved to be flexible and able to cope with the new changes. In a slight coverage of a sports competition, you see that women and men are on their own with their families or others. And also my experience in driving cars in Saudi Arabia, it's been 30 years that I drive a car, but lately I started driving in Saudi Arabia, and when I go to the parking, a man would let me park if I am there. If I want to have a U-turn or get to the highway, he would, for example, help me get into the highway and stop the traffic. There is a real interest in supporting. So our men have proven to be more flexible, more than what is said. We were surprised and happy with the positive surprise. Thank you all. Thank you, Mrs. Amma. Thank you for this interaction. Okay, we will conclude with this question. We really need to know about the situation of women in Saudi Arabia. I am Dr. Watfa Ahmedi, member of the Lebanese researchers and member of the Women Council. I'm a researcher. To tell you the truth, there is an important idea that must be highlighted by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I had 4 workshops at the level of the Arab Theater in Riyadh, and I was surprised to hear about the artistic culture. You've spoken about everything, but the cultural aspect is very important, and I was surprised. A group of ladies have established an organization called Simone de Beauvoir Organization. In Lebanon, we don't have such an organization. They work hard, and they have the script of the plays that they've written. At the same time, we need really to communicate with such ladies, especially through the book that I've granted to the ambassador. This is an overview on the cultural situation of women, and it deserves to be highlighted. All right, I will give you a good news. It is the royal order to organize the Royal Academy for Arts. It will start soon. The Ministry of Education also launched a strategy for the upcoming period with a lot of initiatives to communicate at the artistic and cultural level to highlight this important aspect as well. Now is the last question. Thank you for all what you do. I have a realistic question. It's been many years that we see all entities working on women empowerment, learn, take positions, and you see all ladies or a large part working and working hard. But did anyone notice that we need also to work on men in order to accept the women who achieve? So as ladies, we work hard and we get face to face with men. We respect men, but we are ladies, and we do not deny our femininity. But are we working and are we raising awareness on the role of women amongst men? Yes, thank you. I fully agree with you. We need to reassure men that we would always have him as a partner in a complementarity process. A nation cannot be enhanced with it's man only or woman only. The main unit in the society is the family. My success at work doesn't mean a neglect of the family, and this is also covered by Vision 2030, allowing women to work online inside the household with flexible hours for the employed women. And there is also Wusul, a transportation service that allows women to have access to work and drop off their children at school. Also, kindergartens are provided in all workplaces, and if that is not the case, the government would pay 80% of the kindergarten for 2 children for a working mother. Thank you very much. I know that after this great presentation, it is difficult to stop the questions, but we have to commit to the allocated time. Please, the ambassador of the custodian of the 2 holy mosques, Walid Bukhari, would like to also pay tribute to women who have always made a difference in the women process. Please, 5 minutes more. I'm pleased to call upon His Excellency, the Ambassador, to the tribune in order to present the commemorative plates. I am happy and pleased to call upon Her Excellency, the Minister of Interior, Raya Al-Hassan, to receive her commemorative plate. Minister Al-Hassan is the first woman to take office in the Ministry of Interior, not only in Lebanon, but in the entire Arab world.
ماني محضرة.
I don't have a ready-made speech, but I will tell you what I have on mind. First, I thank Your Excellency for this great and honorable gesture. One of the politicians in a foreign country once said, "Women are the world's greatest untapped wealth." I mean, women have hidden potentials, and not having them engaged in the political life is a big loss. I really believe in that. It's not because I want to achieve equality only, but from an economic benefit perspective, for the sustainable development sake. And here I see a big progress in our Arab countries. And in the last 10 years, there is progress in different fields, whether in terms of the political participation. It's true that in Lebanon, we still have low percentage, relatively low percentage, but there is more acceptance of women participation in the political life. In other fields, as we see now in Saudi Arabia, now I'm telling His Excellency, you are pioneer in terms of the custody, the personal status, and many other fields. They are much more advanced and they are ahead of us, while we think that we are advanced. And really here, in your vision, you've proven to be much more advanced, and I think that you will be amongst the countries that are the most advanced in terms of women empowerment and letting women achieve their full potential and fulfill their full participation in the social, economic, and political life. Thank you once again, and I call you all to run for the municipal elections, because we need to exercise our right to vote first. We can influence the decision making through our participation in the electoral process. Do not deny yourself this right granted by the Constitution. Thank you. I call upon the Executive Secretary of ESQA, Dr. Rola Dashti, to receive her commemorative plate.
أدعو السيدة أمال معلمي إلى المنصة.
دكتور أمال معلمي.
شكرا لحضوركم وعلى
Thank you for attendance, and I hope that we will meet in new achievements by women.